Oklahoma City Thunder are your NBA champions. They won last night. We'll never know what would have happened if Haliburton had stayed healthy. He had them in that game. He had gotten them this far. It's just a damn shame we didn't see how it played out. But the Thunder, They don't have to apologize. They are your NBA champions. And we have now made this about the Pistons. The goal is to win it all.
Yep.
Do you see what Oklahoma City did and try to do this a little more homegrown? Or do you see Haliburton get hurt and say, hey, Lillard's hurt and Tatum's hurt and Haliburton's hurt. The East is wide open. Maybe Giannis gets dealt. We got to do something bold, aggressive, and do it right now. 248-539-9797. Sam Presti has done a great job with Oklahoma City, turning this around. First of all, he gets credit for drafting Durant and Westbrook and Harden, and they didn't get it done, and he had to do a full teardown and reboot, and he built this thing up from the ground. Here was Sam Presti back in 2021, before it was fun or convenient to talk about what they would be, but at their low point, this was his message. And he would go on to detail kind of what they were doing there. Yeah. That was in 2021. That was not popular to say, that shortcuts cut long runs short. And they didn't want to make an appearance. They wanted to arrive.
Well, they've arrived, and they're going to roll it back next year.
Yeah, everybody's coming back. They're loaded. They've got 1 million first-round picks. They're in a lot of ways the envy of the association. So why is that not the path to take for the Pistons? And I'm not mad at anybody who comes in today and says, seize the day. Like Tom, I know you have said that. You go, how do you not make a big move? I'm sure, knowing Mike and Rico, and I'm not taking a shot at them, they are going to say, there's blood in the water, go for it. I'm not mad at it. Hey, I'm guilty of it. I put a hand up in the air and said, hey, Jaren Jackson Jr., we all have guys we'd like this team to add. I just don't think it's as extreme as if they don't, then they royally screwed up. Because 2 years ago, the Thunder had a losing record. 2 years ago, Jalen Williams was not an all-NBA, all-defense guy. 2 years ago, SGA had made his first all-NBA team. And he was a year older than Cade is right now. There's an argument. Asar, full year without the blood clots. Ivy, a full year that he actually finishes. Duren, a full year where he actually plays well. They should have beat the Knicks a year ago. They really should have. If Ivy's healthy and Stewart's healthy, I think they beat the Knicks. And if you want to label me a homer, I will take that label. I feel like they were good enough to beat the Knicks last season, and I think they're in a great position in the East, even if they don't land this home run big fish in the next month here.
Right, in trade, because that big fish is not available in free agency.
Right, and you got to give to get, which is where people get nervous.
Right, and people are going to get really nervous if you start talking about, and how did Oklahoma City, but there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can go out and sign free agents. You can go out and trade and try and win one next year, or you could do what Oklahoma City has done, and that is piece together a team through the draft and through bits and pieces of trade or free agency, complementary pieces.
Yeah, of course. Hartenstein and Caruso are. Look, the Pistons could make those kind of moves, but SGA is their best player. They traded for him well before he was a star. They didn't trade knowing they were getting an MVP. They traded for he was a piece in the Paul George trade. He was a lottery chip for them when they got him back, and they developed him. Their second best player is Jalen Williams. They drafted and developed him. Their third best player is Chet Holmgren. They drafted and developed him. Sure, Caruso and Hartenstein were quality vets they added along the way. Lou Dort is a draft and developed guy. Wiggins, a draft and developed guy. And they're not stars, but they're part of this deep defense that Oklahoma City had that helped make them the number one team in the NBA this year.
Ken Thompson, Ken Holland, guys that you drafted, can they develop into maybe not stars like Cade is, but can they develop into guys that can be your Wiggins, your Dort?
Yeah, the little pieces that make you an 8, 9, 10 person deep basketball team. I think the big question is you feel like you have an SGA and Cade Cunningham. You don't know if you have a Jalen Williams or a Chet Holmgren.
Do you think his ceiling is league MVP?
If you're the number one overall pick, making an all-NBA team at 23 years old, playing at the caliber Cade already is, yes, the expectation is he may have to play a little more unethically, but he can get to 30 points a game. He can be the engine of your offense. He can be the best player on an NBA championship team.
I think he has an MVP ceiling too. I mean, I think it's there. We talked about this a few months ago. The problem is what does Wemby become? Because if Wemby becomes what he's supposed to be, he's going to start winning some MVPs. But we've seen, there'll be a year there where Cade can win it if he elevates his play a little bit more.
I'm not so concerned about whether or not he wins an MVP, but if he could play at that level,
right,
then that makes all the difference in the world, because then it's about all the pieces that you can put around him.
It's just like SGA was in the Jokic era, and Jokic and Giannis, and
there's a case to be made that Jokic should have won it again this year.
I mean, Steve Nash won 2 MVPs in this league, so it can be won.
Absolutely. But you don't know who your 2 or your 3 is at this point.
Right. See,
and that's the great unknown. This is honestly, I don't think someone's wrong to have either opinion today. I think it's a fascinating, fair conversation for the Pistons. Which path do you walk down?
My thing is like, I think what you're fighting here is we're fully not sure what Langdon's philosophy is. And there's a ton of big names potentially available in trades. Do you go against whatever your philosophy is because of the landscape of the East? Your 2, 4, 5 seeds all have lost players for next year with Achilles injuries. So if you add something right now, you're probably on level playing field with the Knicks as is. Maybe, it can be debated.
Sure.
Not with the Cavs on paper.
Yeah, but that conversation is you want to be good enough to win the East. What happens if you face Wemby in the finals? What happens if you face OKC again in the finals?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point here is the East is open. But the goal isn't to win the East. The goal is to win it all.
And the other thing is, do you let outside circumstances dictate what your philosophy is?
You would think no. If you're a strong principled person who thinks they're doing it the right way, you shouldn't let an injury to somebody else fundamentally change the way you're running your basketball team. But we're all human. And pressure's there and opportunity's there. So I think it's going to be something to watch. I think everyone will have opinions today on the station, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I don't think Trajan Langdon right now is under a lot of pressure.
No.
Not in pressure of terms of his job. It's just pressure in terms of making the right decisions to win now and in the coming years.
Well, we've talked about it with Scott Harris. Like, he's not, again, same thing. No one's calling for his job. He's not under any pressure that he's going to lose his job. But there's always pressure to capitalize, right? Mm-hmm. There's pressure if you have the best record in baseball and you go, I can't let this bullpen be the bugaboo that holds us back. Or if we need a stick at the end of July, let's do something about it. Yeah. That's where the pressure comes from. And it's a healthy pressure that's something that we've wanted from our teams for a long time. Gator's in the studio. Gator, what's up?
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Good morning.
Morning. So that was a little disappointing last night.
Yeah.
When Haliburton went down, there go the hopes of the Pacers. I mean, they played valiantly throughout the first half without him, and they just couldn't keep it together when things moved on. But that's okay. It's all right. Curious to see what's going to happen. Next few weeks are really interesting for basketball and for hockey. You got the drafts coming up for both this week, and then you have free agency beginning next week. I think it's Monday for the NBA, and then it's Tuesday.
We'll see billions of dollars spent.
Yeah, going to be a ton of cash. But what does it mean for our teams?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what happened yesterday in the world of the NBA beyond? Oh, hey, OKC won. That doesn't really have an effect on the Pistons, but the trade the Phoenix Suns made certainly has an effect. Unfortunately, that stayed in-house in the Western Conference, so it's going to be interesting to see how teams decide to fortify their positions going into the upcoming season.
Imagine something you guys will talk about today.
Yep, that and a Love Island recap.
Oh, I heard there was supposed to be a big episode yesterday.
Yeah, well, with respect to spoilers, we won't spoil anything.
Okay, yes. Well, I wouldn't be able to spoil it because I heard that there was going to be a big episode, but I didn't watch
John,
it.
you're not a regular watcher?
No. But I have women in the house.
Just you wait, John Jansen. Just you wait.
All right, Carson Anderson next, 97.1.